Hello everyone and welcome to this channel. Thank you for watching this channel, and in today's channel we are going to discuss, or today's video we are going to discuss the journalistic interview. So the journalistic interview, just as the name suggests, it is an interview conducted by journalists. So generally, journalism is the collection, the processing and the dissemination of the newsworthy materials to a mass audience by the use of the mass media. So I want us today to look at the collection aspect or the gathering aspect of news. Journalists collect news. Their work is to collect news before the processing and the dissemination takes place. So generally, the reporters are expected or obligated with the interviews or with the news collection aspect. So in the news collection aspect, they collect news from people, and they collect news from these people from or through a number of ways. So one of the ways that they can collect the information from the people, or what we call the newsworthy materials from the information from people, is by conducting what we call an interview. So journalistic interview can be defined as a special form of conversation between a journalist, that is the interviewer, and the news source, the interviewee, in which a journalist aims to get relevant information for his or her stories rather. So interviews can either be pre-recorded or broadcast live. This one is depending on your plans or the time that you have for your interview and what you want to achieve. So the next thing that we have is the types or the forms of interview. So we have the types and the forms of the interview. They are categorized, or we can categorize for this video based on how they are conducted. That is how we are going to do it. So we have the planned interview. So the planned interview, the interviewee, that is the person to be asked questions, and the interviewer, the journalist in this context, the person to ask questions, prepare in advance. The two people prepare in advance. They agree on the topic, they agree on the location, they agree on the time that the interview is going to be conducted, whether it is going to be a live broadcast or a pre-recorded interview. So this one is planned in advance. The number two, we have the grabbed interview. Grabbed interview is the direct opposite of the planned interview. Now, why do we call it grabbed interview? Here, the interviewee isn't willing to grant an interview, yet the issue is of great value, of great news value. So the prominent people or the celebrities, sometimes if they have scandals or they have anything, information that will be considered relevant to the society, sometimes they are never willing to give this information. So journalists, because of that pressure from the public and the eager to inform the public or have the interview, sometimes they can organize themselves. They can ambush this person. Let me call it ambushing. They can ambush the person, then they conduct the interview. They have the microphones on, they have their cameras on. They can wait this person, let's say, at the doorsteps or before the person boards the vehicle or alights from the vehicle. So from there, they'll ask a question. They'll just have their questions ready, and the question will be thrown to the person to be interviewed, the news source. Then we have the panel interviews. Here, the panel interview involving one or more than one journalist interviewing news source or the news sources, or a journalist interviewing one news source. What we call journalists, we can have, for example, journalist interviewing an individual, just one person. This is the news source, and we have a number of journalists conducting interview or asking this person questions. We have the telephonic interview or the telephone interviews, or the one is conducted through the Skype or the Zoom, whichever medium or whichever platform that can enable teleconferencing. So because of the logistic constraints or the time constraints, you will not conduct a planned interview or the grabbed interview because of the physical proximity or because of the time constraints or the travel logistics, you will therefore opt for what we call telephonic interview. So for the telephonic interview, you only have a phone call, a phone conversation, or use the Skype or the Zoom or the team viewer. From there you can now reach out to the person you are going to ask questions. Then you have what we call the vox pop interview, or what we normally call the man on the streets interview. So there is an issue, current affair issue, and you want to conduct somehow an opinion poll from the general public. So you will draft a question. So this question will be subjected or will be given to a number of people. Then you only ask the question, you get their views on the same interview. It is normally called the street interview because it's normally conducted in the streets, and again it is for the ordinary people. These people may not be well known, just the general or the ordinary citizens can be asked this question. Then lastly, in this category or in this section, we have what we call actuality only interviews. Actuality only interviews, they are normally presented by editing out questions and retaining the responses only, what we normally call the actualities or the inserts. Before we proceed, just a reminder and a request. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. Those who have subscribed to our channel, we are very much grateful to you. Thank you for being there for us. Thank you for providing the support. So if you have not subscribed, please subscribe, like the video, comment, click on the notification bell so that you can get a number of such kind of videos which are very, very much informative, educative and entertaining based on your course, because we want to grow together. So thank you very much for watching our content. Think of subscribing. I want us now to talk about the process and the procedure of conducting the interview. The process and the procedure of conducting interview. We have different things that we have to do. Number one is preparation. You prepare. Then we have the setup. We have the conduct of the execution of this plan. Then we have the presentation of the interview. The presentation of these results, for example. So the first one being the preparation stage. What do you do as a journalist in the preparation stage? And what should be done by the person you are going to interview? So topic identification is number one thing. A is topic identification. The topic should be interesting, relevant to the target audience. So before you do this, you have to conduct proper audience analysis so that you understand your audience. Understanding the audience better will enable you identify the best topic for your audience. Remember, at the back of your mind, you should have, or you should understand what we call the news values or the news determinants. What makes something news and what makes another thing not to be news. So it should address any of it, any if not most of the news values or the determinants, that is the prominence, timeliness, proximity, magnitude, novelty, significance, and the rest. So such topics should be around politics, current affairs, trends, education, economy, environment, and parenting. A number of them you can pick on, so long as the topic that you have identified is of great value to your audience. Number two is interview selection. Identify the person to be interviewed. Remember, the person selected should be knowledgeable about the topic of discussion. It can either be an expert, victim, or a witness. This person should be knowledgeable, well conversant with the topic. For example, if you want to talk about the current political situation in the country, the best person to go for is the political analyst. Go for a political analyst. That is when your story can be considered credible. Because remember, you want to have the audience. You want to get the story interesting and relevant to the audience. You want to make it informative. If you want to talk about education issues or education matters, academia or academy, go for an academist. Go for educationist, that is. Go for an expert, a professor, a person who is knowledgeable. If it's about medicine, go for the medics. If it's about anything, go for the professionals in those areas. Those are the people that can actually increase the credibility, or that is the believability of your story. Not all people are blessed with words. Some people are introverts. They are not willing to give more information. So once you understand this person, you will know how to handle the person. Some people are very, very rude, and therefore you cannot handle them with a lot of ease. You have to prepare psychologically that I'm going to handle this person. I say that some people are introverts. There are some people who are extroverts. They speak too much. Now that they speak too much, there is chances that they can even divert out of the topic. So you, as a journalist, you should know how to handle such people. So learn the character. We have number 3 on this is research on the topic. Remember, the journalist should do thorough research on the topic to enable him or her understand the topic identified. Remember, the interviewee will find it interesting and engaging only if he or she realizes that you, the journalist, understand the topic. The person is not there to teach you. Journalists only ask questions that they have answers to. So doing enough research will enable you formulate good questions. So this one brings us to the next thing, what we call questionnaire formulation. You formulate a questionnaire. A questionnaire is just a list of questions that you will wish to ask, that you will wish to get information from the person you are going to interview. So questionnaire, note that questionnaires can either be structured, what we call the types of question, closed-ended or unstructured open-ended questions. It's about asking the right question the right way to the right person until you get the right answer. So open-ended questions, these are what we call unstructured questions. The interviewee is given a room to explain himself or herself concerning a topic. But for the closed-ended questions, what we call structured questions, the interviewee is confined to either a yes or no, or to specific set of responses. For example, somebody can ask you, do you support the bottom-up economy? That is a closed-ended question, because you are expected to either say yes or no. But if the same person asks this question this way, that what is your view on the bottom-up economy presided or fronted by the Kenya Kwanza government, that is, you will now have a leeway or opportunity to express yourself. The interviewer has been given that opportunity to express himself or herself, or to give a general opinion. The person has not been confined to a specific set of responses. Then another thing is deciding on the location. Decide on the location where the interview is going to be conducted. Remember, we said that the interviews can either be broadcast live or pre-recorded. All in all, whether it is broadcast live or pre-recorded, you have to agree on the location. Location are normally categorized. There are 3 categories. One is your territory as a journalist. This one can be within your offices, that is within your studio, or within the media organization premises, that is your territory. Then their territory. the territory of the person you are going to interview. Let's say, for example, you want to interview a farmer, you conduct the interview in the farm. So you conduct the interview from the farmer's farm. That is now their territory or his territory. Then you can even conduct the interview from somebody's home or office. So all in all, you have to agree. Then the last one in this is what we call the neutral territory. You can decide to conduct the interview in an hotel where all of you can reach, you agree on where to sit. So all in all, you have to agree so long as there is comfort. You are comfortable as a journalist here, and again, the person to be interviewed is also comfortable. What causes this is normally the security concerns. So if there's a security threat in any place, please avoid it. As a journalist, no story is worth your life. Now, let us now talk about conducting the interview or executing the questionnaire. Now, one thing during the preparation, you have to agree on the dress code. You have to settle on the dress code. Your dress code should be dictated by the interview type and the location. That is, the dress code, dress less official if the interview is to be conducted in the farm, unlike the official dress or official dress conduct code for the office interviews. So another thing is the pleasantries. Set the mood by informal discussion about the person. Find jokes, but be cautious with banters or the jokes. They can ruin the entire interview. Another thing when conducting the interview is maintaining the eye contact. Maintaining the eye contact is a prerequisite for a successful interview. You can easily tell that the person is lying if you maintain the eye contact. The person will also feel interested if you maintain the eye contact, because you are not distracted by other things. Maybe you are on your phone and you are reading messages or doing other things, and the interviewee is already speaking. So try to maintain the eye contact. You will be in a position to identify, because remember, as human beings, we speak using both verbal and the non-verbal cues. For example, the facial expression, you can ask a question, then the person can respond by having a frowned face, meaning he is not happy with the question. Frowning the face is not how the person is not happy, or the person will be smiling. You can easily tell what it means. Then listen attentively. You can only ask good follow-up questions if you are listening carefully. Proper listening also prevents you from asking questions that have already been answered. For example, in your questionnaire, you have question 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the process of answering question 2, the person unintentionally responds to question 4. It will be stupid or silly for you to ask the same question. So, if you feel or if you have realized that the question has been answered, you better do a replacement. Or if you feel that the question was not satisfactorily answered, you can come up with what we call a follow-up question so that you can wrap it up. So if you don't pay attention, then you will not come up with a good interview. Another thing is encouraging the person to speak. Cajole the person. The interview to speak by maintaining the eye contact, head nodding, paraphrasing his or her responses will show that the person or you are interested. Encourage the person to speak. Note taking is another thing. Take notes. Take notes enables you to note down the most important questions that you want to ask next, because there are some questions that you're not prepared to ask, yes, but in the process of the person responding to your interview or during the interview, you come to realize that there are questions that you need just to ask based on the responses given. So don't interrupt the person while speaking to ask the question. Just note down immediately he or she is through the explanation that he or she was doing, then you can now come up with your question. This one can only be done if you are taking notes. Another thing is to take control, take charge of the interview. You are the chair. Decide the direction that you want the interview to take. Their politicians, to be specific, are normally evasive. They are normally cunning. They can decide to divert your attention from the real topic to other things that you are not interested in. And you will end up, if the interview is to last for 30 minutes, you will end up not achieving the objectives. So for you to achieve the objectives, the best thing to do is to ensure that you maintain the eye contact and you take control of the interview. So if there is any slight diversion, ensure that you bring the person back. Another thing is stick to the language of broadcast. Radio station, television station, or if it is an online platform, please try as much as possible to confine yourself to that language of broadcast. I mean, if you are broadcasting in Swahili, ensure that your interviews or your questions are asked in Swahili. If you are broadcasting in English or any vernacular language, please restrict yourself. This one not only applies to you, but even to the person responding to the question. Some people tend to be in the process of answering the question, so along the interview they divert from the main language of broadcast to the neighboring language. So try to bring person back, because remember, you are answerable and accountable to the listeners. These people are listening to the program because they understand Swahili. So if you bring a lot of English, they will get distracted. So, up to that particular end, I'm grateful. If you have any question to ask, if you have any comment, please have it on the comment section. And above all, please subscribe to our channel, like the video,